listen-only mode.
Hello, and welcome to today's SSP seminar, Eliminating Print. Really? The third in our series for 2013. We're very pleased that you can join us today. I'm Gerald, Lillian, CEO at Allen Press and the organizer for SSP's webinar program. Before shock overcomes you that someone from Allen Press would organize a webinar on eliminating print, remember first why you signed up for this session. Whatever the specific reason, we all know that this issue has to be strategically evaluated, regardless of the final outcome for your print game plan. Today you will hear from panelists who have gone through and survived what you are now contemplating or implementing or looking back upon and evaluating with respect to putting print in its proper place. Before we get started, there are just a few housekeeping items I'd like to cover. Your phone is automatically muted in consideration of the presenters and your fellow participants. Please use the text chat feature set to organizers and panelists only to send in questions or notify us that you are having technical difficulties. Also, please specify to which presenter you would like your question directed. Questions can be sent at any time, but will be compiled and presented to the panelists once all prepared presentations are completed. At the conclusion of today's presentation, you will receive a webinar evaluation via email. We encourage you to provide feedback so we can continually improve the SSP webinar program. You will also receive a link to the recorded presentation in the next few days. Our moderator today is Barbara Chin. Barbara is an Associate Director at JSTOR, where she manages publisher relations and leads the strategic direction for its archive collections. She works closely with librarians and scholars to understand their content needs and to identify trends in academic research for new product development. For JSTOR's 1,000 plus participating publishers, she has introduced new programs and services to support their own publishing strategy and seeks to collaborate with publishers on new, innovative projects. It's now my pleasure to turn the webinar over to Barbara so she can introduce our panel and get us underway. Barbara?
Thank you, Gerald, for that introduction. I am very excited to moderate this webinar. We at JSTOR, with the archive collections, we concentrate on digitizing print, but we too are concentrating on a workflow to accept electronic publications. So I have a vested interest in this webinar, and I'm looking forward to learning more from the presenters and from the discussion that will follow. So let's get started. Gary Dunham is our first presenter. He is Director of Publications at the American Speech Language Hearing Association, otherwise known as ASHA. He previously served as Executive Director of the State University of New York Press and as Director of the University of Nebraska Press. He is responsible for the association's major publication streams, including its print and online news magazine, online journals program, and online periodicals sponsored by ASHA's special interest groups. So currently, Gary is overseeing the operational upgrade of all of ASHA's publications, which includes migrating to a new online hosting platform, enhancing the seamless one-stop discoverability of all content through semantic meta tagging, and customizing users' engagement with digital content, and developing robust pathways to the digital publications through mobile devices. So we are very lucky to have Gary here as a presenter. So over to you, Gary.
Okay, thank you very much. The American Speech Language Hearing Association has been around for a long time. We have 166,000 folks who have joined over the years. And I oversee kind of a complicated portfolio of publications, 4 scholarly journals, 18 periodicals that are online that are now sponsored by the ASHA Special Interest Groups, as well as our association news magazine, which has a print version and an online version. And as you can see from the screen in front of you, ASHA has engaged with online for quite a while, and we've gone through waves of this. And so we certainly have the experience of what works and what doesn't work, and that kind of frames my presentation for you this morning, because what I want to do is step back and give you an overview of the whys and the hows of what's worked for us and what hasn't worked as well. We're very fortunate that all of our content is going to be going to a new online platform in January 2014 as well. So we're currently going online again, so it's a kind of a fascinating experience. Not only do you do it once, but you learn from what's worked and what hasn't, and when you go online to perhaps a new experience, then you can take a look back and see what has worked and what hasn't worked. So what I want to do here is to talk about 5 factors that for ASHA, and we've talked to a lot of our colleagues as well who have gone online, but 5 factors that we have looked at when we look at whether or not we should put one of our publications online. And then if and when you decide to do that, then what are 5 steps? And I'm going to have to go through these pretty quickly, but we can always follow up. So why move a publication online? 5 factors. First of all, it's very important to be thinking about the fact that not all content is created equally. Not all is going to benefit as much from being online. Sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I think the first step has to be, when you're considering whether to put a publication online, is to look in a very detailed, concrete way of what is the added value, okay? And what's the added value both in terms of how can that content be enriched through an online environment, and how can the engagement of readers be enhanced. And there's a number of things that we have discovered that were good talking points and discoverability points. And of course, going online will, for some publications, accelerate the publishing schedule because you are eliminating the time lag because of printing and shipping. And you're also going to be, if you can switch to an article-based publishing model, that helps accelerate the publishing schedule as well. That's wonderful for a publication that is timely, such as a news magazine, for example, where you want to get that news out there as fast as possible, or you're responding to a changing political environment. Secondly, in terms of added value, online can greatly increase the discoverability because you're putting your content into a broader field of semantic resonance on the web. So in many ways, your publication can be more visible and have more impact than ever before. If that matters to you, then online may be the way to go. Obviously, third, online is going to enhance and enable 24/7 instant access to being able to enhance the pathways to that content, such as mobile devices. Multiple pathways are going to be enabled to your content to online in a way that it can be in print. Fourth is going to be multimedia. Obviously, when you go online, you're going to be able to bring in more of a multimedia rich experience in terms of audio, video, slideshows, and so on. This, of course, works well for a news magazine. This is why we're redesigning our online news magazine. But it also can work well in terms of discoverability, a demonstration of experiments for research articles. And last, in terms of added value, we've got this the online experience supplies an enhanced interactive and social media capability. For example, for our news magazine, we want people to be able to comment on articles. We also want to be able to push that content from our journals and our special interest groups content and news magazines back out into the social media. And you can do that better when you're all sharing a seamless environment. Secondly, when it comes to why move a publication online, does it make financial sense? Well, sometimes for many people, this will be the first consideration. It was for Asher the first time around. Second time around, it was more about we wanted to enrich our online experience, so we moved from one platform to another. So you need to look at the assessment of overall cost savings, in terms of the savings from not having to manufacture and ship, but also, and we don't always want to talk about this, but there may be the possibility of staff reductions if you're going to be eliminating some of the functions. So you compare that versus revenue loss from advertising, plus there are going to be some digital specific expenses, the cost of a hosting platform, file providers, vendors, apps, and so on. These have to be weighed out in the equation when you're looking at whether you want to go online. And people, of course, are going to go right to the bottom line often and ask you about that. Third, does the current digital communication tools exist that are affordable and will do what you want? In other words, are you currently informed enough about what is currently available to help you with the content so that you can say that these tools are available to transform your content as well as to make them as affordable as possible? And that means that everybody who is considering going online, don't let your vendors tell you what's available. Go research it yourself and be informed and be empowered. Fourth, what are the professional norms and expectations of those who are writing content and reading the content that you are publishing when it comes to digital? Most of the journals are already digital, for example. Have you done surveys, readership surveys, that say that folks would be receptive to a digital-only content? And what's the word-of-mouth feedback that you're hearing as well from your readers and from your authors about going to digital? The last factor you should consider, I think, when going online is, and this is important from a political point of view, folks, because you've got to get your buy-in. What's the extent of in-house support and buy-in from your organization's management? Is this being mandated from top down? Is it being mandated by a rogue publishing team like I love to run, which we're advocating what should be the best practices for the association? Is there a combination of both? This is a key factor in order to be able to sell your point of view of going to digital in-house, is that you really need to assess in a very candid way what that landscape is of buy-in there. All right, so let's assume at least one of your publications is going online. What are the 5 steps to follow? Well, I think at ASHA we probably didn't follow through the first time as well as we should in the steps that I'm going to outline here, but definitely the second time we have learned. And one of my overall messages is seize control of the process and own your publication before a vendor owns it for you. Know exactly what you're looking for, and then go have conversations with a vendor. So one of the first things that I always recommend is place your publication within the broader context of strategy and long-term goals. Set forth a mission statement for your publication. Connect it to the mission statement of the organization. That gives you a broader sense of relevance of why this publication matters. And it also will help with buy-in later on. Third, establish strategic goals. We're in the publishing business where we're looking 3 to 5 to 10 years down the road. And so we really need to be looking at it in terms of what do you want for your publication in terms of the stature in the field, the types of audience, its financial health, types of content, the functionality, and so on. And how will this move to digital only help satisfy those goals? So you see what you're doing here is you're not simply saying, well, let's go online and find someone to help us do it. Instead, you're thinking about it very clearly. How does this resonate with the association's goals, and what do we want? And that goes to step number 2 when it comes to seize control of this process. You want to maximize, because you're going to be having conversations very soon with online vendors who do this for a living. So you want to maximize the amount of individual functional and creative input you have into the development of your online platform that will be hosting that content. So I strongly suggest that you draw up a preliminary list of what your functionality is, as well as the look. And I got to tell you, folks, that a lot of people in associations are more concerned online with functionality than look, and they both matter, because the look is about the branding and about being able to navigate. It drives home a certain type of image about your association. You want them to go hand in hand. And that's why quite a few online journals tend to have content crammed in there, because it's more about functionality than it is about presenting a certain image. You want to do both at the same time. They really do make a difference. So you want to think about such things as e-commerce functionality. Are you planning to monetize your content in some way? If that's the case, then you need to be thinking about what is it that you want, what types of ways do you want to monetize that content. So then you'll be looking for a vendor to do that for you. How discoverable do you want the publication? Do you want the, how much do you want in terms of tagging, in terms of semantic tagging, or how much do you want that discoverability to be related to the other types of publications that you're doing? You also want to consider the accessibility of that online content as well. Do you want to go with mobile devices and with apps? You need to be thinking about the types of pathways that you want to create and carve out to allow people to access that content. Obviously, you need to think about the scope of the multimedia capability. What are you looking for? Don't go to a vendor and let their constraints of multimedia dictate what you do with your content. You think about it first. Now, ASHA did that the first time around, and we're not doing it the second time around. I would also say look at what you want in terms of the interactive or social media capability. How much do you want social content from different social media to be fed in? What's the kind of dance step you want there? Also be thinking about, you're going online, but do you want to offer your readers a print-on-demand option as well? We do that here at ASHA because we really believe in offering choice. And then you also want to be thinking very importantly about the visual branding. What's the relationship with the brand of the association as a whole, as well as with the other publications? So then the next step, now that you own your publication, you know what you want online basically, is you want to research and select the online hosting platform that best satisfies these goals that you have set up and functionality and look that you have set up. So you want to establish a set of criteria for looking for a vendor. Don't go out and issue an RFP yet. Think about what you're looking for in that vendor, even beyond the specifics of the functionality. You want someone, obviously, who has a robust functionality and design capability of what you have already established for yourself. Secondly, you want to look at that history of customer responsiveness of that vendor. Make sure that this is a partner that has a track record in the industry of working well with associations, working well with publishers, and you can obviously talk to references about that. Third, you want somebody, in my view, who is an industry leader, and that's something you've got to research in order to be able to get a sense of, but somebody who has pushed the envelope when it comes to technological innovation and being able to use that for their clients. Be looking for those things before you reach out. Now, when it comes to the process, the first thing you do is, obviously, is that you issue an RFP. We all know all about that, obviously. I recommend strongly that you get at least 3 bids if possible. You want choice. There may be somebody, you've done your research, that you already think you want to work with in an online environment, but it's helpful even from a political point of view to choose at least 3 bids and take a look at them. And when you have your in-house committee look at the bids, make sure from a strategic and a political point of view that the parties that need to be speaking to the publication across the association are on that committee, because that's where the buy-in really occurs in kind of an active context. And then third, I recommend strongly that you interview those people, those vendors, have them come in, have them do presentations, so you can get a sense of them up front. You can ask follow-up questions, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we have done that a number of times for the various publications that ASHA has done, and it's worked well every time. Then you've chosen a vendor. You get to the stage of contract. And that's extremely important, because think about it, when you're beginning those negotiations with the online vendor, you want to exert as much editorial control over content as much as possible. You want to exert as much creative control over the look, and you want functional control. So keep that in mind when it comes to specifying. And remember, the vendors you're working with, they can be honorable, they can be good, but you're just going to be another client to them. And so often they are going to be looking for kind of the smooth, easy way to move through the process. Stick to your guns on this, and we have. You're going to want to have separate costs. Beware, there are going to be separate costs for the development of the platform and then of the maintenance of the platform. Okay, those are 2 separate things. You also want to make sure that all your desired functionality, the different components you want, are all itemized. Okay, they're all itemized, and you also have a timeline associated with each of them, so you're all on the same page when it comes to the unfolding of this platform. And you're also going to want to make sure that there are a number of penalties when it comes to not making deadlines. Okay, it's not always the case when you see vendor contracts that you see that in there, but you really should insist on that to protect your association. All right, I'm going to quickly move on because I need to wrap this up, because we've got good colleagues with lots to share. So fourth, okay, this is such an important part of moving online, and that is you need to carefully manage the messaging and the promotion of the rollout. This is critical for maximizing the buy-in from members, readers, writers, advertising, and minimizing the negative reactions. You have to, this needs to be incorporated into the development of the platform. This can't be an add-on later. You need to be strategically sharing information about the advantages of this platform, the advantages of online content throughout the year as the platform is rolling out. You also want to include time, if possible, for feedback from your readers and members as well before launching, so again, it allows for buy-in. And last, keep those messages consistent and memorable and bite-sized. You know, you want them to have takeaways that they remember of why this is such a cool thing to do and why this will make a world of difference to them as readers and authors. And lastly, you need to be able to look back in a structured way. Build recurring operational postmortems into the plan. The online environment is constantly evolving. the needs of your professions are constantly evolving. The skills, the tools that we have are constantly evolving. And so you owe it to yourself to keep your online experience fresh, to take a hard, honest look at what works and what doesn't. Do postmortem 6 months out and then annually, and just sit down and take a look at what is working. Also have a methodologically sound way to obtain feedback from readers through surveys. And I am finished.
Thank you, Gary. That was a nice overview of moving a publication online, especially when the online publication is the only version you will have left once you eliminate print. And our next speaker, Rich Dodenhoff, did just that. He is the Journal's Director for the American Society for Pharmacology and Experimental Therapeutics. Rich oversees all aspects of the Society's 4-journal publications program. Hired by Aspet to bring its publications in-house from a commercial publisher, he also centralized peer review, improved the publication's financial health, and moved the journals to online-only publication. Previous positions that he held included combinations of editorial, production, and business management responsibilities at Matthew Bender, the IEEE, and the American Statistical Association. So we are also lucky to have Rich here today. Before we begin, I will let attendees know that the PowerPoints will be available to view after the webinar is over, so you don't need to hurry up and scribble notes from the slides. They will be accessible to you. So with that, Rich, whenever you are ready to begin.
Thanks very much, Barbara. Aspet had a fairly smooth transition when it dropped print, and as Barbara mentioned, we dropped it completely. Our situation is a bit different from the premise of the seminar in that the decision was staff-driven rather than coming from a board of directors or a publications committee. Dropping print entirely may not be the best decision for all journals, but if your publications program is in a situation similar to ours, dropping print may work very well for you. So just some quick background information. Aspet has been around since 1908. We have about 4,500 members who are primarily bench scientists. Most work in academia, but some are in government and industry. We have 4 peer-reviewed journals, and 3 are published monthly, and 1 is quarterly, and the years that they started are on the screen. The importance of print had been declining for some time at Aspet. Members never received print journals as a member benefit, nor were they required to subscribe to a print journal. In fact, member subscriptions have always been minimal despite a steeply discounted member subscription rate. The journals have been online since 1997, and online access became a member benefit in 2003. By 2011, member subscriptions were less than 100 per title. Journals do, however, provide the bulk of Aspet's income. There were other factors that we also considered in deciding to drop print. Print subscriptions had been eroding for institutions as well. We offered online-only subscriptions starting in 2001. In 2008, online-only subscriptions outnumbered print with online. Non-member individual subscriptions were even less than our member subscriptions, and they had been eliminated a couple of years earlier, so we did not have to worry about those. All of our back issues went online during 2005 through 2006, so we could say that the journals were complete in their online format. Advertising generates a small percentage of our income. It's only about 3%. So that was not a huge concern. We didn't want to lose that income, but it wasn't a big deciding factor. We participate in locks and clocks, so we feel that we have addressed archiving concerns. We added a mobile device version in 2011, and that has offered at no additional cost to subscribers. That addressed concerns that we would continue to make our journals available in developing countries. All of our content from 1997 up to the most recent 12 months is freely available. So our members were concerned that we were still being able to get that material out to people. Looking at the numbers, we found that the cost of providing print outweighed the loss of print-based income. Basically, we were losing money on print, and we did not find a way to make that work for us. Nonetheless, there were still some concerns about dropping print. When our Board of Publications trustees met to decide whether or not to eliminate print, these were some of the concerns that they raised. Archiving, as I mentioned, was taken care of with clocks. And the subscriptions numbers showed that librarians really were fine without print. In fact, I'd heard many librarians at publishing conferences and seminars ask publishers to stop print as an excuse for them to move to online only. They were, at some institutions, under pressure to maintain print because the publishers still offered it, and they felt that if it had been dropped, then they had a really good reason, obviously, not to have it. Still, there was some uneasiness among the board, so I asked them, when was the last time you used a print journal? And they all kind of looked at each other, and then they shrugged their shoulders, and they said, yeah, go ahead and drop print. So that decision was made in April, and it then became necessary to get word out as broadly and as quickly as possible. We ran a story in our membership newsletter and published ads in issues of that newsletter after that announcing that we were eliminating print. Our journals have the ability to send email announcements to those who have signed up for them, so we sent an announcement from each title announcing the end of print. We used print ads in each journal and banner ads on each journal website. We sent a letter to all of the subscription agents in our database. We have about 350. And we prominently displayed on the renewal invoices and our price list that all subscriptions would be online only for the coming year. We also ran a banner that was placed diagonally across each journal's cover announcing the end of print, and that appeared on the last 3 issues. I assumed that print subscribers would see that, and if everything else failed, at least they would look at that cover and realize that print was ending. That turned out not to be true. One thing we should have done before we ended print, but we did afterward, was to contact the subscribers who had not activated their online subscription. Online had been included with print subscriptions for many years, and I think had we contacted those people before ending print, we would have solved some problems, because we did get renewals from a number of those institutions, and they still did not realize that print was not available. A few months into dropping print, we started getting claims for missing print issues, so even the subscription agents had not picked up on the message. So no matter what you do, some people are just not going to get it. We have found, since we dropped print effective January 2012, that going to online only has been very advantageous. The costs are obviously lower, but another advantage is that we can be much more flexible. In 2013, we moved our quarterly journal to continuous publication, and we're going to do that with the 3 monthlies this coming year, and that's proved very popular with our editors, and our readers seem to like it as well. We're just beginning to look into other ways that we can break away from the constraints of print. One issue has come up is, do we need to still have a cover for each issue? The editors seem to feel strongly that we should, but maybe we can do something much more creative with that cover. Maybe it can be animated, maybe it can rotate, we can have different images for each month. We're looking into those things. A few of the downsides of not having print is that we've learned print really matters for Chinese institutions. I learned that from Charlesworth, and we have lost some subscriptions there. For some reason, the Chinese feel that, or there seems to be a feeling that a journal that has print is more highly esteemed than one that does not. Still, we're going forward. We have some concern about developing countries because we do want to reach as broad an audience as possible. However, as I mentioned before, the mobile device version of our journal is getting our content into places that the desktop version never seemed to reach. I check our Google Analytics, and I'm seeing countries that I've never heard of. So that's a really good thing. Advertising was down a bit because our last year in print had an unusual jump in print advertising. So it was the highest it had ever been, and the following year that didn't look so good. But online advertising is coming back, and it has been growing for us each year, and I think it will get to where print was and won't be a problem. We're looking into more options for banner ads and putting them in different places on announcements. So I think that's going to work out just fine for us. So on the whole, dropping print was definitely a good decision for aspet. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rich. That was a nice case study for anyone who is interested in completely eliminating print journals. But that is not always the best option for a society or an organization. Sometimes you may want to instead just minimize print, and that's what our next speaker and last speaker has done. Judy Jansen is the Executive Director of the Society for the Study of Reproduction in Madison, Wisconsin. She has been with the Society since 1985, first as managing editor and then as publications manager, and since 1993 as the executive director. Judy is responsible for all of the Society's operations, including the publication of its journal, Biology of Reproduction. And during her tenure, Judy has helped the Society navigate its journal through every technological advance the publication industry has seen over the past 2 decades. One of the first journals to go online in 1998, one of the first journals to use an online manuscript processing system in 2001, one of the first journals to proactively move content away from a print-centric model to online only, and one of the first journals to move to a continuous publication model. So all of these steps have proven effective by the quality of work submitted to the Biology of Reproduction each year, proudly published by its society. And we are, again, lucky to have Judy talk about her experiences with online publications. Okay, thank you, Judy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can anyone hear me? You can hear me. Okay, good. And can you see my screen? I'm sorry.
Yes, I believe it is showing. Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I will see if I can get this working. Okay, first, the Society for the Study of Reproduction is a relatively new organization compared to my colleagues' organizations. We were formed in 1967. And the Society, and its mission statement, it was to promote the study of reproduction, fostering interdisciplinary communication within the science, holding conferences, and by publication of meritorious studies. And so that the publication is part of its mission, and it's part of the heart and soul of the Society, and they cherish it. So that's a good point to keep in mind. So the Society now has 2,200 members worldwide, and it's down in the early 90s. We had over 4,000 members of SSR. Excuse me. There was something on my screen. And the journal that we publish is Biology of Reproduction. We refer to it as BOR. It was first published in 1969, and it is a monthly journal and has been. The Society, the Publications Committee of the Society is responsible for establishing editorial policies, and it also has fiscal and managerial oversight of the journal. Staff does not. It's all within the Publications Committee and then the Board of Directors. Our staff size here in my office is 8, and 2.5 of the positions are devoted to publications, which includes the journal, all Society, other publications, newsletter, etc., and includes the website. Where do I do this now? I'm sorry. So the background, from 1969 through 1998, the journal was supported entirely by institutional subscriptions, publication charges, and and publication charge and a percentage of membership dues. There was minimal income from advertising, and that continues, and there's less all the time. So it was not seen as a revenue stream for the Society, but the gravy was from those institutions, libraries that did purchase subscriptions. So it was of the Society, for the Society, and for the reproductive scientists. In 1998, we went online with Highwire Press, and all the issues were made free after 12 months. So you can imagine what that might have done to our subscription line. So the subscriptions had always been, but I should say that all of our subscriptions, all of our members have received, as a benefit of membership, a print subscription to the journal. And then when we went online, online was added to that as a benefit. And in 2002, we started to, we began to publish our papers in press, published ahead of print, and those were freely available within 2 weeks of acceptance, and they were free to the world, not just to the members. And then from 2002 to 2006, we digitized all of our back content, 1969 to 1998, and made that also freely available to the world, not just to members. And there was no subscription fee for that, for access. So the model seemed to work for a while because the institutional subscriptions were stable. They were never very great, but they were stable, and so that revenue continued to come in. And BOR was doing very well in the eyes of all the scientists. It became the highest impact journal publishing basic research in reproductive biology. We were depositing data in Crossref. We were doing all of the right things. We were members of the LOCKS program and the CLOCKS archive. And we had a 50% increase in the number of submissions, and we were publishing over 2,500 pages each year. I think about that time, the acceptance rate was running between 50 and 60%. So then it didn't. So there were new features, and it didn't work so well. There were new features that increased the journal's appeal, but they did not generate revenue. We had significant increases in the impact metrics, and so the journal was doing well in that regard. And there were significant increases. We knew this from the reports from Highwire, that there were many more successful requests for pages. So there were lots of accesses. But there was a significant decline in subscriptions. Libraries were really changing their models completely. And there was a significant decline in the number of members. That's when funding started to decrease in support of research. And also there were more societies turning towards reproductive biology, so there was more competition. There was no real change in the number of submissions, however. So what we had was an escalation in costs, i.e. we were giving free content, was also continuing to build and to consume resources. So we have a lot of supplemental data, and that does end up mounting the costs. Okay, so that we had to make some decisions, and we had to make them fairly quickly. Is we had to figure out what to do. I had been an advocate of dropping print for some years, but as Rich had explained, our board of directors and our publications committee was very reluctant to do that. Even though none of the members on our board were getting print or had gotten print, we dropped print as a benefit for members at some time ago. But they were reluctant to give it up. They were afraid that something terrible might happen. And so they insisted that if we do this, if we go ahead and drop, quote unquote, drop print, that we have a print option, and so that we would have to develop a way of having print on demand. So that if someone a library wanted a subscription, the library could get that subscription, and if a member wanted to purchase a copy or purchase a full subscription, the member could do that. But we were going to transfer the cost of print to all end users, and it was not going to be absorbed in the regular cost, in the whole cost of producing the journal as an online publication. And we also wanted to go green. We wanted to eliminate all of the waste, that we could, and not to print anything that wasn't going to be used, because people were talking about, they were trying to get rid of their print collections. Every week it seemed like we were getting another letter from an emeritus member wanting to donate his or her collection of biology of reproduction to the society. And we had a lot of those copies here already. Anyway, so we decided also that we could allocate resources to new features. And one of the other things that we did, we rejoined the BioOne collection. We had been a member of that collection up until 2006, and then saw that it was then seeming to erode our subscription revenue. And so the society decided to withdraw from it, and then we have rejoined so that we can perhaps meet a larger market or adjacent markets, that people who are not necessarily active reproductive biologists now, but that are interested in reproduction, or they're teaching colleges where they're using this information in their classrooms. So, and we also, we are trying to encourage library consortial sales through ISPG, or the, which is the Independent Scholarly Publishing Group. So just look for me. So the strategies and timing. In the winter and spring of 2011, we did some information gathering to explore what we might be able to do. And one of the ways that we wanted to move was in continuous publication. We were already publishing ahead of print, and we were shortening our time to publication as it was. You know, things were turning around very, very quickly. Copy editing didn't take very long. Everything was being prepared for publish ahead of print. We had changed our whole stream of work so that as soon as the paper was accepted, we were already readying it for publication. We weren't just going lockstep with the old ways of preparing for publishing. So so the continuous publication is what we were looking at. We wanted a mobile journal site, and we also needed to have this print-on-demand option. And so in the summer of 2011, the Board of Directors approved all 3 initiatives and said, go, do this, and get it done right away. And so we began to work with our publishing partners, Allen Press, for the print-on-demand development, and with Highwire Press for with Highwire Press for continuous publication. So the strategies and timing continued. On Q4 of 2011, we did some development and testing, and mostly the staff here did all of that work with Allen Press and with Highwire Press, and there were some bumps along the way, but basically it worked out so that by first part of 2012, we began continuous publication, which was amazing. So we publish everything that we can, everything that's ready every Thursday of every week. And so the development and cost for print-on-demand and the mobile journal site was also approved. And so we needed to price the print-on-demand so that it was actually covering the cost of producing it. So we had to figure out what it would cost, how much it cost to produce 1 copy of an issue, and then how many copies would we have to sell at what price, of course, to recoup that cost. So we figured out it was about 10 copies, or 10 subscriptions per year. And so we priced it higher than that, of course, and then let it roll. Also in Q1, so we've really finalized the print-on-demand, and we finalized the mobile journal site in Q2 and 3, and then in August at our annual meeting, we launched the mobile site. And print-on-demand was working. That's how we delivered all of our subscriptions to the libraries that retained print subscriptions. And for those few members, I don't think we had any members after the first year who continued with print. So then the transition to continuous publication was an interesting one that happened very, very fast, and it was completely new to us. So we had to introduce article numbering rather than page numbering, and we had to so we have articles are numbered, and within each article the pages are numbered. Then we had to decide on when we were going to post these articles, and we decided on Thursday. And then we discontinued that year too. We also discontinued the agency discount because we did not want to spend more time and staff time on dealing with subscriptions. We really wanted them to go away. And then we had to work through the details of our back office and vendor support, and specifically, you know, and then we had to examine our break-even points, and that was what I was referring to a few minutes ago with respect to the print-on-demand. How many copies would we have to sell to get the money back that it took to produce it? And then we had to create a storefront, which with Allen Press, and so that's how that is handled. All of the print subscriptions, orders for that go directly through Allen Press. We don't want to spend we want to spend as little time as possible on the print version of the journal, including delivering it up to customers. So we had to create a new production schedule for print issues. We used to produce them, and they were shipped before the first day of the issue month. And now they're printed and distributed about the third week after the beginning of that issue month. So, and we had to fully establish the online version of BOR as a journal of record and the print product as the afterthought in readers' minds. And since the journal actually, the print journal appears later, it helped make this transition for us. And then, so then we also had to develop the print-on-demand storefront for readers willing to pay the premium for print. And so here's where we are, assessment, feedback, in the future. Print isn't missed. Nobody misses it at all. And so we want to highlight and expand the digital content features and products, and this is our next step. And so we'll continue with print on demand as long as revenues cover costs. And in the future, we hope to have customized, personalized collections. So that, well, that's a possibility with print on demand. So if someone chooses to collect all of the articles that he or she has published over the last 40 years, they can pull them together and print them out and pick the cover that he or she wants, and then they'll have a nice collection of their work. They can buy lots of copies and give them to their relatives. So, for the future, authors like continuous publication model. In the future, we hope to shift efforts away from publish ahead of print, drop that, because we're publishing almost on top of the publish ahead of print, and so staff time is going into prepping for the author's manuscripts as at the same time as they're getting ready to launch the first complete the continuous publication print articles. So we do offer full color print on demand now because it's easy to support, and we have all of the images are already. It's going on to a digital press. Everything is fine, but it's still expensive. So we're really mulling over whether or not we need to print in color, and it might drive away print entirely if we have no color, but we don't know that. So, and then that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. That was very informative, and we have a steady stream of questions coming in, so I want to make sure we have enough time to answer all of these questions as possible. There was one for Gary, just for some clarification, if you do offer a print-on-demand option.
Yep. Okay.
If you want to clarify that first.
Yeah, I'll be happy to talk about that. Yes, we do for the journals. And the main reason that we still offer a print-on-demand option for the journals is because we're still getting a moderate level of interest from institutional subscribers in Asia and mainland Europe and having them in terms of archives. And also, we have had a few members who have wanted a print version of it, and so we offer the print version to them at cost.
Okay, and then a question for you and Judy. There were several questions wanting to know what the library take-up of the print-on-demand, for the print subscriptions for print-on-demand, and then for Judy specifically, what was the markup of the print over electronic?
Okay, I'll answer from Ash's point of view. Institutional interest, library institutional interest in print in North America is dead. That's from our point of view. But it still maintains a moderate level of interest in Europe and in Asia. And the print, in terms of the relationship between electronic and print for our Asher journals, we maintain them as exactly the same cost. But I do know that other people approach that differently.
Okay. Could you repeat the question again? I'm sorry.
Yes. What is the uptake, the take-up of the print subscription with the print-on-demand option, and what is the markup of the print price over the electronic version?
Okay. The uptake there wasn't a big change in the number of print subscriptions at all, at least so far. This has only been, now we're into this a year and a half. So there wasn't a huge change, but we're down to probably around 300 or so, 350 print subscriptions. And the markup over I'm sure, is the markup over the, it's just exactly the cost that we're charging what it costs, and maybe it's, I don't know. We'll look it up and we'll have.
Okay. Thank you. On a related question, this question is for Rich specifically. You noted that there is still a preference for print in China. This attendee has noticed that journal subscriptions to print offered as a part of a print and online option continue at a high rate in Japan as well. And do you have any insight into why this is the case in that region?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the economy in Japan has been so bad for so long now that we've been losing subscriptions there anyway, and that started happening before we dropped print. So I'm not sure if we've seen any acceleration of that since we got rid of print. But I have not heard of a preference for print in Japan. I have heard from Charlesworth about China.
Okay. Okay. And then we have a question. How are online articles in the ASHA Leader, this is for Gary, but for anyone who might still have a print option, how are the online articles different than what's in print? And does print pick up all or most of the online content? What are the decision points? And what's the version of record?
No, it's interesting. I am smiling as you're reading that because we are looking at these very questions right now as we redesign our online ASHA Leader, and that we have actually looked carefully in terms of the types of content between the print version and the online version of the leader, and we've decided the following things. One, the online version will be the version of record because it is permanent and it is searchable. Number two, any types of news briefs that we feel that the readers should know will be coming through the online version. Analysis will appear in the print version, but we will also pick it up in the online version. So what we're doing here is that we are activating in an interesting way, I think, the online version to respond to the types, to what our readers want, which is they want that instant news, particularly about the change in healthcare landscape, but they also want more multimedia when it comes to interviews with the members, because our news magazine reflects the our membership as much as it informs them. And so we're going that way, in which we're going to be doing more articles online, but all the print content is going to be online as well. So it's a really fascinating division. And the fact is that ASHA isn't going to give up the print version of its news magazine because members see it as a benefit, a tangible benefit, a tactile benefit that they can receive every month, and they want to hold that in their hands. But at the same time, they want that news fast, so we can satisfy both of them, both the needs.
Judy, Rich, I don't know if you have anything to add to your decision-making with your editorial policy, focusing on the online version over print?
Our online version has always been more complete than the print version because we have data supplements. So we also, before we dropped print, started doing cover-to-cover PDFs. So every page that was in print was already online, including any print ads, mastheads, covers, that kind of thing. We obviously don't have print ads anymore, but everything else is in the online journal. We're not missing anything, and we didn't have to add anything when we dropped print.
Okay.
And I agree. We did the same thing. You know, there's everything that we put in print is online, all the way.
Okay. I think we have some attendees interested in the financial aspect, and if your societies, for any of the panelists, if your society makes more or less money with whatever new model you adopted.
Well, who wants to answer that first?
Well, this is Rich. We're making more. simply because we eliminated so much cost, not because we added much more revenue. But just by getting rid of print and all of the associated expenses, that saved us significant amount of money, and so now we've got a brighter bottom line.
American Speech Language Hearing Association is almost exactly the same. I don't think we've increased the amount of revenue, but we really haven't lost any over the last 4 years when it comes to the journals program.
Yeah, and with biology of reproduction, we haven't. It's about even. We haven't gained any more income, and our costs are not any higher. We sort of spread it around. It just sort of tends to maintain the same level no matter what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And we never did have any advertising revenue to speak of anyway.
Okay. We did have a question about ads, and I'm just trying to find the right question. I think this was directed to Rich. Do you currently use expandable online ads, like the semi-full screen ads that take over 5 seconds? And if so, are your readers and board okay with it? So something about the user experience here, too.
We don't offer those, and I'm not even sure if our hosting platform can facilitate that. I don't think our board would go for it. They welcome advertising revenue, but not if it's going to interfere with readers at all. So we've got leaderboards at the top and skyscrapers on the side, and that's about it. We also do some inline ads where you can pay to have the name of your company or a product linked out to your website. But that's it for us. We don't do anything fancier than that.
Yeah, I would say the same for ASHRA as well. We have very, very strict rules when it comes to the relationship between advertising and scholarship, and so we would never go for an expandable ad, and we are very restricted in where we place our ads on the landing page of the journals, and there is never an ad within the article itself.
Okay. Has anyone considered a flip-a-book version of a journal to retain print advertising? That's one question.
We are going to be rolling out a flip book version of the news magazine next year, an online flip book version in order to be able to raise that revenue, the advertising revenue a bit, but we wouldn't do it for journals.
Yeah, I have to admit my information is simply anecdotal, but from the folks I've spoke to who have done that, they really didn't see much advantage to it. And in fact, the advertisers found very little use of those ads, so it didn't seem like it was worth the investment for us, and I haven't pursued it.
And a question about mobile ads, if anyone is using those, and how so?
No, we do have ads on our mobile sites, but they've had very few hits. We're basically just using house ads there now.
Okay. We are nearing the end of the webinar. We are running out of time, so I won't be able to get through all the questions that are coming in. But I don't know if each of you have one last thought that you want to share with attendees, whether it's one mistake to avoid or one piece of advice that you would give to another society looking to eliminate print.
Well, I guess that I would say the main point that I was trying to drive home, and that is do your research yourself before you make that step. Own it. Own what you want before you go and you talk to outside vendors, because in the long run you will feel like at the end of the day when you've got your content online that you have more ownership of it than if you had let a vendor dictate the terms to you.
And I guess I'd say if you can make money off of print, more power to you, but don't hold on to it just because it's tradition and it's been around for long and people are comfortable with it. For us, it just didn't make sense. We were losing money on print, so we got rid of it, and you can do that too.
I would say
and Judy?
take care of your subscribers. Even if you've only got 100 or 200, take care of them. Make sure that they understand exactly what's going to be happening. If they are retaining print, what they have to do to retain it. If they are going to switch to an online-only subscription, make sure that they know how to do that and that they know the benefits of it. We didn't have enough time and enough bodies or enough resources to make sure that we were able to contact all of our subscribers and let them know ahead of time what to expect in a direct and personal way. And that would have been very helpful.
Well, thank you to all the panelists. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our attendees did too. I will now take it back to Gerald for the final wrap-up for this webinar.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. And again, as you said, to our wonderful group of panelists. And thank you to all the attendees for taking your time to join us today. And I'll just make a comment a couple more times here that we really do appreciate your feedback as well as your attendance. So when you do get the link to the survey, please send that in to us, and it will help us continually improve the program. And also just a reminder that the recorded presentation as well as the presentations, the PowerPoint slides themselves, will be available within the next couple of days, and you'll get a notification via email on that. So with that, our session today is concluded, and everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you.